Hi, folks. Josh Clark here. To finish up the RSA training, I'm going to walk through what your follow-up with a resident should look like, both with the follow-up letter and how to use our WSA Rainscaping Action Diagram Generator. So a few things to keep in mind. The form really is, the RSA form really is step by step, and the actual template for the letter should really set out an easy way to kind of formulate your letter. It's a really good idea to compile your notes from your site assessment and interview so that it makes sense and it can be telling the narrative. And we also have example reference letters that you can look at on the Steward Only page to take cues from, maybe take some verbiage from, take some resources from. But it's really important to remember that the follow-up letter is really to make connections with the resident or between the resident and contractors or other resources so that they can reduce pollution. Some really important things to keep in mind is that Steward not make recommendations to redirect large volumes. There are other resources that are really helpful for your reference letter together, whether that's the WS across in Maryland. They're both really good to guide you to mentor the resident to taking good rainscaping action. It's always a good idea to connect the resident to qualified contractors or other professionals, whether that's from our vendor and contractor list or with Chesapeake Bay Landscape Professionals. Any of those folks would be great connections to make. And I want to highlight again that if infiltration BMPs such as rain gardens are recommended, you really should be highlighting in your letter information on percolation tests and calling misutility. So as I mentioned, there are example follow-up letters on the Steward Only page, and they're a really great guide. And what I'm going to do now is just go back to our RSA form that we've been working with and just remind you that there's really four sections to this: the positive points, opportunities, resources, and next steps. Remember that you should include this verbiage here. And I'm going to show you one that Jan Atwood, the RSA lead, put together. Again, this will be available for you to read by yourself, but you'll notice that this first bit up here really is what you just saw on the other page. And from there, Jan really does set up a narrative of what was seen on site. So she really breaks it up step by step. What it looks like here is that she took her notes and basically, as things were discussed on site, that's how she's kind of mirroring that in her letter. Um, and in this situation, she kind of combined her observations with her recommendations. For example, she talked about seeing erosion next to a driveway, and then she made recommendations of maybe adding rocks and planting to help stabilize that. And then also recommended getting in contact with landscape professionals that would be able to help and kind of help mitigate that. So what I will say is what I like about this letter is that you can see the blue hyperlinks kind of peppered throughout it. These all correspond to different resources that the resident can just click on and go to, and it talks directly to the letter. So if you're doing an email or another electronic correspondence, it's a really good idea just to kind of embed those resources in the whole thing. So typically a letter like this is sent, but it also is a good idea to use our rainscaping action diagram, which is basically a Google slide or PowerPoint that you can use to develop your own map here. So when you see this, it will be its own blank form. And let me just pull up a new window of that so you can see it. I don't know if it's going to let me do that or not. Um, but really with this guy, this is kind of what it'll look like when it comes in. So again, I've created this JPEG, this image from the GIS, and I've just dropped it in here. I've also dropped in the site address of the site that we just saw in the videos a little bit ago. And if you remember from the videos, we recommended using a rain barrel at the southeast corner of the house and some conservation landscaping. And you'll see that these graphics are actually movable. And the reason they're movable is that on the second page of this PowerPoint, there are different things that you can grab here. So just by simply copying and pasting, you can actually put them on the on the first page here wherever you want them. So it's a really easy way to create a map that tells the story of what you're recommending. This is kind of bite sized. So when you put an action on the map, you fill the action out over here and vice versa. So again, the recommendations for this site were installing a rain barrel on a conservation landscape. From there, you'll want to save this as a PDF. And it really is great because it spits out something that is usable and something that can just be attached to the email or whatever you're um, looking to do for for the correspondence back. So your follow-up letter can be the letter itself and also this PDF, along with all the other resources that you want to put in. If you're not as comfortable with using PowerPoint as of some other folks, or if you have questions about putting your letter together, don't hesitate to reach out to me or to the RSA group leads, and we can walk you through how best to do that. Um, I will say thank you for joining me with these steps. It was a lot of things that we covered. So if you have questions, do not hesitate to reach out to me, and we can go from there. But thanks for joining us. Have a great day.